Nice. Hello and welcome to the Graeyzone. My name is Silas,
My name is Rob.
And my name is Raouf.
and today we are covering a very hot topic in general. Is The Office funny?
Yeah, we thought we thought it'd be a good time to ask the question because The Office is going off of Netflix and we won't ever have to see it again.
Thank
Yeah,
goodness.
let us comfort you in your time of grief as it leaves Netflix and it's harder to get a hand on
Right.
by telling
and
you that it was actually never funny. Ooh.
it was never funny. Ooh, why? Why was it not funny, Rob?
I didn't think it was very funny because the humor is very forced and it's like, hey, this moment's funny. You fucking laugh or you're stupid. And I hate being spoon-fed comedy. Like it just feels so unnatural. And then even the forced comedy parts aren't funny. It just goes like that. And then it
Well,
ends up
I just think they have a bunch of awkward moments that you're supposed to laugh at, right? Some of those forced moments that you're talking about. They're like these awkward moments that happen, like when Kevin spills his chili. Like you kind of knew that was going to happen, and watching the scene, you can watch it happen, and you can recognize that it looks pretty, choreographed. So, but why is that so funny? Why did people find that so funny? Is it that, but it's light humor that people like?
Is it just in that specific scene, might it have just been like the slapstick aspect of it? Like how you might laugh at Looney Tunes or Tom and Jerry?
I guess so. Because otherwise, you would need a soundtrack in order to get people to laugh on that. It's like a step above Big Bang Theory, which is also not
See,
funny.
that's
okay,
one of
Big Bang
my
Theory is less funny, but
Yeah.
go on, Boof.
That's one of my main points of contention with The Office is that I can tell that it was filmed and edited in a way that was probably supposed to be accommodating a laugh track because there's so
Really?
many shots that just kind of linger where nothing happened, and in my head I can hear where a laugh track might have been put, but it never they decided to not include a laugh track, and so we just have a bunch of people staring at each other, dragging
Right.
out the joke to a point of absolute fucking agony.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I
it's
think
not funny.
that's one of my main problems with American humor in general is that no one seems to know when to let a joke die.
Yeah.
It's true.
Everything is very you have to a lot of people here need to explain a joke and just kind of torturously prolong it.
Which makes a joke not funny.
Yes.
Yeah.
I never got the hype behind The Office. I tried watching it a couple times, and it's just basic whatever, It's supposed to be like, oh, haha, there's an office and people are in it, and there's all these different fun things that are happening. And like the first couple seasons, maybe it was a little bit more original, but then it just kept going on and all these different things, like story wise.
Do the whole part where they replace Steve Carell for 4 different seasons, and it's just
Yeah,
not when you've got Will Ferrell in there and the show's not funny, it's like, what the fuck is going on? It's so
yeah,
it's so dry, like, "Oh, haha, Dwight shot a hole in the floor, haha." And there are some funny parts, like what is it, the scene with Staying Alive, and he cuts the fucking doll's face off. Like, there's funny moments. It's just like they're memeable. It's a memeable show, not
You
a
know,
good show.
when you put it like that, Rob, I think part of the core issue is The Office, the way it's filmed, the American version is filmed in a way, with a lot with just basic reverse shots and characters talking, make me think that it's supposed to be cribbing off the British version, right?
Yeah.
But
right.
British version, British humor is geared towards that kind of little office setting because the British are just better with things like wordplay, with that sort of dry humor, right? And the American version feels like it's trying to get into that spirit of dry humor, but I guess the American writers just they're not as witty about it. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, no,
And the Office is at its funniest when it is embracing the more American humor because that's where the writers feel comfortable.
Yeah, they're in their comfort zone, yeah, because it's like, with dry humor, it's like you kinda have to full send it, And it makes sense in an office setting because the setting is an office, right? It's a very boring
Right.
place where
Yeah.
dry humor. I mean, if you've worked in an office, it's like dad jokes 24/7, right?
Yeah.
You're right. I think you're right in the fact that the American writers fail to pick up on that because it is funniest when it's trying to be funny,
Yeah,
not
it's
when
funniest when it's focusing more on like physical humor or just like really balls to the wall sort of visual stuff.
yeah, like
Like the parkour stuff. I
Yeah.
thought like when they jumped off the
the
truck and
trash cans and shit. Yeah,
yeah, that was funny because they were actually doing something stupid. Like that would never happen, of course, in an office, but you know, it's that American humor that you guys are talking about.
It,
That
it's
was funny about that.
it's clippable humor. Like you don't need
Yeah.
a situation to make that shit funny. It's just funny.
Maybe
Wherein
is that
dry
oh wait, no,
humor,
continue.
oh, I was gonna say, where in dry humor, you need to know what's going on before to make it funny versus clippable humor where it's like you can just watch this anywhere, it's funny. It's like a
Yeah,
2 minute
you know, you need to
2 minute
hear it. You just
comedy sketch.
right.
Is that why The Office is so memed? It feels like
Well, it's
for
just a bunch of
every
clips. Yeah.
20-minute episode, there's like 1 minute of things that made someone laugh.
Yeah, and then they meme it.
And they meme it, and maybe that fucking bludgeons everyone into accepting the idea that it was funny because they've seen the same meme like 20 billion times over on Facebook and Twitter.
Yeah, it's nostalgia goggles. If you've never watched the show and all you ever see are the myriad of memes, of course you think the show is funny because there's so many memes and they're in wide in variety too. It's a plethora of memes. And it's like, oh, you've got Stanley having the heart attack, and then you've got the chili meme, and it's like they don't relate at all. But you think about it with how many episodes and how much runtime The Office had, there's not even that many memes of it. Like SpongeBob has more memes. And
SpongeBob
SpongeBob
has more
also might be a
memes.
funnier show.
It is because it's got
Yeah.
much more of a visual humor, which is displayed in cartoons better because you can do more things with cartoons than you can in real life.
And he's a sponge, so
And he's a sponge, and sponges are funny AF.
yeah.
Well, yeah, it's an inherently funnier setting.
Yeah.
So,
Like-
do you think that The Office? Sorry to cut you off. Do you think that The Office, the US version, would have worked better in the UK? Like,
No.
like
No.
without the UK version of The Office, do you think that this would have worked there?
No.
No,
Because
they
it's
don't like the
trying to
humor.
ape that style of humor, but like at least
So-
I don't think they do it anywhere near as well.
Okay, so it's because that they're trying to Frankenstein that dry humor with American funny. It's it's become this abomination that people somehow really, really like or don't. There's no
Well,
in
let's
between.
think about this. So what is it that people really like about this show? Because clearly we're in the minority, right?
Right.
I can kind of think people who like the show, and like, don't take this wrong because I've watched it a bunch. It's a show that's really easy to put on. Like, just throw the show on, and then it could do like 100 other things while it's happening, and like not feel like almost never miss anything, right? Like some shows you put on, and then like you miss 4 episodes because you're doing laundry or you're typing or you're at work at home or something, and you're like, what the fuck happened in these last 4 episodes? The Office, you can like skip an entire season and come back, and you're like, oh, Dwight's still trying to become regional manager. Ha ha ha.
It's an easily watchable show. You don't have to start anywhere, end anywhere.
And it's got a very loose plot. So it's like, yes, there is a beginning and an end. The plot takes so long to develop and happen that you can miss chunks of episodes and just be like,
So
whatever.
people just treat it as background noise then.
That's how
I guess.
that's how I've watched it. Almost exclusively, I've watched it as background noise.
Well, that's almost an indictment on the show if it's best at not engaging you all the way when you just kind of drift in and out of consciousness while fucking watching it.
Yeah, and this is going to be another kind of like slap in the face maybe, but I used to like to watch it when I was going to sleep because it was so boring that I could just like pass out. Like
Oh, God.
it wouldn't make me laugh. Like I wouldn't be like awake or like half asleep, half awake, and then hear a joke and be like, ha ha ha. Oh, now I'm awake again. I'd just fucking fall asleep.
So I'm looking at this. It says The Office was the most popular. All right, so it was released between 2005 and 2013. right? Which, holy cow, that's a long time. And then 9 seasons. It's still like this really watched show. Is that because of the background noise effect? I mean, I want to interview or poll a bunch of people who have watched The Office and ask them, did you really watch this or did you put it on as background noise?
I also
And
feel like it's one of those shows that benefited from culture. It's become a cultural, not I want to say cultural icon, where it's like, oh, you don't get this reference? What, you haven't seen The Office? So people go and watch The Office.
Well, that's what
okay,
I mean when
so
I say
peer
we've kind
pressure.
of been bludgeoned into accepting that this show is funny just by virtue of it being everywhere.
Well,
And
who said it was funny?
People did.
critics.
The critics.
Do critics actually? You know what? That's a good point. Let me.
Um,
I'm curious what the actual like critical reception of The Office
You look it
was.
up.
Well,
Rob, you and I will talk.
While you look that up, I do want to make a point. I don't
Yeah.
think the show isn't funny because of inappropriate or like racist or like you know, because Michael Scott's kind of racist. He's kind of
Right.
sexist.
Right.
It's not
That-
that because I love It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. That is one of my favorite shows, and they are fucking completely
But
politically
they
incorrect.
embraced it.
But-
They embraced that.
But that show is genuinely funny.
Right. They
Yeah.
embrace that humor. And yeah, sure, it's not nice in real life, but as a form of comedy, that is funny. Well,
Yeah,
the things that they do on Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
I just want to make that clear because if you look up people who say The Office isn't funny, they'll be like, Michael Scott's just a bigoted sexist. And it's like, no, that's not what makes the show not funny. What makes the show not funny is it's
Right.
fucking boring.
You're right.
And it just kind of smells weird. Boof is gonna leave this in because now we all sound fucking clinical.
Yeah. Now, it wasn't worth keeping. Now it is.
Now.
Well, I'm glad.
Here's the thing that I just saw. Here, well, I pulled this up on Metacritic. The Office, the US version of The Office, has a 66
Oh,
average score. The UK version has a 97.
yeah, because it's the original A, B, it's pandered towards the UK. So I would imagine that the humor, I feel like The Office should be a UK dry humor that they like.
Can I prop a new question? Would the US Office be funnier if they straight shot it as a US comedy show?
Yes.
Like, yeah? Yeah, it'd probably be.
Yeah.
Like
I
they
think,
pandered
yeah.
it to us, just like UK was
Yes.
pandered to UK.
Yes. If they took all the UK subtle humors out of the US version and actually went more with, something that the United States citizen would find funny, absolutely. I think it would do phenomenal.
Well, the reason it doesn't work isn't
It's
because
because of
we
the
don't
writers.
find this kind of humor, at least for us.
Yeah.
It's not that we don't find this kind of humor funny. It's that the writers are not good at it.
Yeah, they're not
Right.
good at writing that kind of humor. I was gonna say something else. The Office. You know, it'd be a fun experiment maybe for the Graeyzone, another Graeyzone movie night, if you will.
It's that.
We get together and watch the first season of The Office, and then we get together and watch the first season of The Office UK. It's a lot of
And then
commitment.
compare and contrast. Yeah. Well, I mean, let our viewers tell us. Do you guys want us to do that, or are you guys uninterested as much in The Office as we are?
Oh,
I think it'd be interesting to compare and contrast the two.
It would be interesting.
oh boy, you already know that this fucking podcast is gonna have a big old dislike bar on it.
Yeah, I welcome
we-
the criticism.
We get this video to 50 dislikes and 30 unsubs, like the opposite.
Drop us down to 0, please don't. But that would be fun.
Kind of be hilarious.
But yeah, I welcome the criticism. I think that The Office is a crap show, and I would want to hear your opinions, the general public. I want to hear what you think of my opinions, because ultimately,
we know that they like it. It's
Right.
just getting at the
why.
Actually, the user score on Metacritic is like 92.
That's the fucking crazy part. People love The Office.
But then again, Parks and Rec also has a fairly like mediocre rating.
I think Parks and Rec is pretty funny.
But I also watched the first couple of episodes in Parks and Rec, and I was still unimpressed. I don't know if that show gets better.
I think it's better than The Office, and it gets better.
well, the characters are much more dynamic. I feel, than they are in The Office. You have Ron Swanson, right, who is the epitome of don't care. He's that hardened patriot type, right? Which you don't have that in The Office.
Not even that. They just have better opposites, right? Like, okay, who
Right.
are the opposites in The Office? Jim and Dwight, I guess.
Jim and Dwight,
But that's just like
Sam and Angela, Kevin and
Oscar, maybe. But
Oscar.
or is it
I don't know.
Oscar and Michael Scott? It doesn't matter. You've got that, which is like a very loose dynamic, where in Parks and Recs, you have the very, very opposite extreme politics. Politics are great versus politics are bullshit, and I want the government abolished so I can bury gold on my property. You've got all about materialism in Aziz Ansari, and then but you get what they're very opposite.
Like, all the situations that they go through in that show, like not the plot, but like the story of each episode, it's exaggerated. Obviously people aren't going to act like that. They're not going to come into the office or come into the room that they're working from asking someone a question, and while someone's spinning around, while Ron Swanson's spinning around trying to ignore them, they're not going to keep following them in a circle like a dog. They're going to, it's going to be much more real human emotions there. But that humor is exaggerated, and those engagements are exaggerated. So it's actually funnier that way.
Yeah.
I do wonder, we're talking about the character dynamics, right? And I wonder if part of The Office's problem is that they all suffer from what I call the fucking Joss Whedon style of writing. I know a lot of people like Joss Whedon. In case you don't know who he is, he wrote Firefly, he wrote Buffy the Vampire Slayer, he wrote some of the Avengers films.
Did you remember which ones? Because that's what I remember him from.
He wrote the first one. I know that for sure. I think he wrote Age of Ultron.
Oh, those are the worst too. He wrote Cabin in the Woods.
I don't think he wrote Cabin in the Woods. He either directed or produced.
Yeah,
oh, he did. Okay.
Yeah,
well, I liked Cabin in the Woods. So
I thought Cabin in the Woods. But it's just I actually think are the worst of the two Avengers.
Oh, there you go. But my problem with his writing is that, and like, I feel the American entertainment industry has very strongly gravitated toward this style of writing, is that everyone is written as a like quippity, sarcastic asshole.
Yeah,
right?
everybody has to be somehow funny. Like,
I'm
so funny.
Whedon did Toy Story too?
I saw that.
Did he?
Surprised.
He wrote the original Toy Story?
Yep. He co-wrote it.
Oh, go ahead.
I feel like it's the kind of writing where, first of all, most of the quips aren't as funny as they seem to think
or they're funny
are.
the first time, and then once you hear it again, you're like, that's what she said.
Well, there's that too. But it's also, when you write that way, it creates a scenario where you could probably switch around everyone's lines and nothing would change.
Yeah,
and it makes characters feel a lot less distinct. So when The Office, which is supposed to partly be based on like class, don't differ so strongly, at least the way that they speak to each other don't differ so strong that clash feels that apparent. You know what I mean?
I actually think that really hits the nail on the head, like, to be honest, because that's how the show feels. It just feels like everybody thinks everything they say is hilarious, and then you're just like, everybody in the show can't be funny because then it's not funny. Here's my punchline, and you're like, why is there a punchline here? You're just looking at the snack machine.
Yeah, every fucking line has to end on a gag, even if it doesn't make sense. Like, you're allowed to have a line that's not that funny.
Yeah, you can just be a TV show. You don't have to be the next funniest home videos, and that's also probably why it's so clippable.
It feels like that, huh?
It's because it's just a hodgepodge of different moments that were written to be funny.
It's like you took 10 different stand-up comedians bits and then gave them all to Amy Schumer, and Amy Schumer's just on stage.
Oh my goodness.
It's not funny because she's not good at delivering the joke, and everything's a joke. There you go. Take that, Amy Schumer. I fucking hate you.
Oh man. Well, Amy Schumer is not good. But
it's weird how much that style of, I wonder if writers do it because they feel it's easier than having to, like, because it's easy to have the idea of a character, right? Like The
Yeah,
Office
right.
has ideas of characters that are very different from one another, right?
Yeah.
But when it comes to the like peas and carrots of the writing process, where you have to sit down and be like, okay, now we have to actually write dialogue for all of these characters over the course of seasons, is that where the process starts to break down?
I don't
Because they're like,
know.
I don't actually know how to write this kind of person.
Yeah, like,
Well,
I don't know how to make a dynamic character exist. Like, I don't know how to write a Pam. Pam's like supposed to be. I'm pretty sure in season 1 she's supposed to be like the hot receptionist. Why do they not know how to write the hot receptionist?
well, it's back to that Joss Whedon style of writing, which
Gosh.
literally it says in one of his tips, like everyone has something to say, which I don't think that if you were to put on a performance and you had a cast of 20 people and everyone had something to say, it would, like, the main characters would lose limelight, right? They would lose importance and image. And
Yeah,
then the side characters would be like, well, why are we exposed? Like, why is there a lot of I forgot the word for it. Why is there a lot of story behind this background character? Is that really needed?
And actually, sometimes that happens in The Office. You'll have episodes where you're like, wait, why am I following Kevin Malone around?
Right.
Who gives a shit about what Toby's doing? Like, what?
Toby or
what
Michael's wife or whatever.
oh
You
well,
know?
I think that comes from something slightly different than this Joss Whedon school of writing. I think this just comes from how late into the show are these scenarios that you got? Is all this early or is this later in the show?
It's like
Some of
after
it's early, some of it's later.
after season 1, I'm pretty sure. Season 1 is pretty short, and like everybody's extremely defined feeling in season 1. I think that's why so many people watch the show, is because season 1, I think, is I haven't watched season 1 in a long time, but I'm pretty sure it's pretty like well done season. Like everybody's a character, and
Okay.
then I think everybody kind of gets muddled later, maybe season 2.
I
Maybe
think
early season 1.
okay, because I think that part, like what you are describing, comes from this idea of, well, now everyone is a fan favorite character, right?
Right.
So now a lot of writers feel like they have to appease the fans of every fucking character, no matter how torturously crowbarred into the plot it actually is.
Right, because you do a whole episode about Kevin, or like let's say you do an episode about Jim and Pam, right before they get together, and then the next episode it's like, oh, this one focused on Angela and Kevin or someone else. I don't know. I haven't watched the whole thing. And then you do that episode, right? And then afterwards people are like, oh, where's the Jim and Pam episode? Now, yeah, I get it. Like, it's already produced. The whole series is done. So, people are watching it now that everything's out. But I guarantee you there's still some complaints about something.
I
Probably
feel that
someone's
it's
got their fandoms, thinks that their fandom wasn't treated well.
it's not that these things can't work. Like, I'm thinking of like the early 10 seasons of The Simpsons. They had episodes that followed specific side characters, right?
Yeah.
Like, you can do that if you're good at writing.
If the side characters are funny, I
If
do want
the
to
side-
follow. I do want to follow Sideshow Bob around. He's fucking hilarious. Like,
I think that I think The Simpsons definitely appeals more to American comedy though, which, it's funnier, it's more exaggerated, it's loud, it's got situations that would never happen, and
Well,
plot
I'd still
armor
say
that
they're better at wordplay in The Simpsons than they are in The Office.
Yeah, no, the dialogue is much more engaging in The Simpsons, but I still don't think that The Simpsons is the funniest show ever either. That's just personal
I
preference
like
at
the
that point.
early Simpsons a lot, but I think
I
to go
think
back
they're
to my earliest point of drawing out jokes, at least the early Simpsons knew when to let the scene end. So like
Right.
nothing you didn't dwell on any one thing for too long. But The Office, like I said, they'll let the camera roll for so long. I know that's supposed to create this like found footage
haha.
feel,
Yeah.
but it's not good comedy pacing.
No.
Like, at least for me, it needs to be snappy. You can't let anything dwell for too long.
Okay, so Silas, what do you think is a funny show?
What do I think is a funny show?
Yeah, 'cause you said you don't find The Simpsons funny. We all don't.
Well, I
find The
don't find
Office
it as
funny.
funny.
Oh,
I don't
okay.
find
Okay.
I think The Simpsons has its funny moments. All
Okay.
right. Just like I think Family Guy has its funny moments. It's not
But,
a
okay, are you saying funny moments in the same way I said The Office has funny moments? Or are you saying you could watch the show.
Oh,
because it's funny.
I could watch The Simpsons over The Office because I would laugh more.
Okay, because it's fun. It's funny. It's just not hilarious or whatever distinction you want to make. Okay.
Right.
Sure.
As for a funny show, I'm sorry. I would have to say that It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia has really just had me cackling. Or I mean,
No, I agree that I think that's one of the funniest shows I've watched. It's always funny.
it's for real. Yeah, it's for a real show. As for like, Tunes,
South Park.
South Park definitely has its quips. I do like American Dad. I think that the dynamic between all those characters, it's like a Family Guy, but a little bit more thought out.
Okay, I was just curious.
Yeah, because I don't know.
I think we've ground into The Office enough.
Yeah, Boof. What shows do you find funny? The Simpsons.
Those first 10 seasons of The Simpsons, and I've rewatched some of them recently. Those are funny. Those are well structured, well timed jokes.
Okay.
Yeah, and then Rob.
I was on the same boat with It's Always Sunny.
Yeah.
And then South Park. The reason I like South Park so much is because they do a good job at staying like relevant. And I don't mean like, oh, they made a 2020 joke. I mean, they're like weekly relevant. Like, oh, it's not okay to call the Chinese government. Fuck. Is he an emperor? I don't know what the fuck he is. It's not okay to call
Chairman?
Dictator or whatever.
Yeah, chairman, I think is proper. It's not okay to call him Winnie the Pooh. What are they doing next episode? Calling him Winnie the Pooh. Fucking, they're always on top of the relevancy, and I think that's what keeps them funny.
Although it's also what makes them horribly dated a few years down the line.
Yeah. The replay value is much lower, but I'm talking current. I guess I like them. I like It's Always Sunny because it subverts sitcoms, and then I actually really find Seinfeld funny, which I know Christian would get behind.
Seinfeld is like the original show about nothing.
I also have a huge, massive, incredibly high IQ, so I find Rick and Morty hilarious.
Oh, yeah, I was gonna say that, but then I didn't want to sound like that guy.
Oh well,
We've gotten to the point where you're not allowed to say Rick and Morty is funny. They ruined it.
my IQ is busting through the roof, so I think Rick and Morty is funny.
Well, you heard it here, folks.
Obviously,
Rob,
that's a joke, obviously, but
You heard it here, folks. We came to the incredible conclusion that Rick and Morty is a funny show. That's where we landed.
That's where it is, baby.
Well,
And Workaholics and Whitest Kids You Know. There's my last two.
Workaholics is funny. That's right.
Workaholics is funny, and I think Whitest Kids You Know is underrated.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. Definitely. Well, you're right. We beat the crap out of The Office enough today. Guys, in the comments, let us know what you thought.
Yeah.
Tell us
Let us know why we're wrong.
Yeah, tell us why The Office is funny.
Give us a dislike, unsubscribe, and hit that bell off so that you don't get any notifications from
us. We'll be back. We'll be back next week with Christian in it too. I know you guys are missing our boy.
Yeah, and so as we are. So until next time, this is Silas.
This is Rob.
And this is Raouf.
And you are watching The Graeyzone. Until next week, we'll see you then.
Goodbye.